I suppose you could say it has a bit more kind of potentially oomph in terms of political power and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's not the sporting centre that Toronto is.
But at the same time, Perez has got a track record of delivering on these things, if not necessarily. I have question marks of anyone who speaks things so well, but I'm just wary of the salesman, if you know what I mean. And Perez,
yes,
gives me that feeling.
It's the Alan Stanford curse, if you like.
But Perez isn't the money man, is he? That's the thing. When he's called an entrepreneur, he's not the money man. But what he is he's passionate about rugby league, and he has delivered before. So I think there's a good chance here. And apparently having the League One license does give them a leg up. But then with the New York bid, they get a leg up that there's much more money that could come in from that and much more cachet with that. So we'll see if it's a one or two, a one or the other or both, and whether they go into the same leagues. But yeah, it would be a challenge to have two sides from over there in League One, with teams that can sometimes not afford to all take a day off work to get on a bus down to Coventry or North London or what have you. So
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Not a lot of news stories this week, but some really interesting ones. The only one we really got the feedback on, I think, also because of the way they landed, was the Ben Roberts story. But look out for the Google form for fan views on the week's news to give us for next week's show. And also, look past old tweets and that sort of stuff and old Facebook posts. You might be able to see a link to it there. Save it in your favourites. Anytime a news story comes up that piques your interest, even if it's one that we wouldn't necessarily normally talk about on the Super League pod, it's your guys' show as much as it's ours. So get those news views in, and then you don't have to hear as much of our views, I think. Anyway, that's the news this week. We're going to move on now to the Super League match reviews. Super League match reviews from round 7 this time of the Super League. Alan, bad news on the crowd front.
Yes, to say the least.
I mean, this
a bit of a perfect storm.
This average attendance ranks 7th of 7 rounds so far this season. I would be shocked if we've had a lower average attendance across Super League probably since last time London were in Super League, when they were getting lower crowds than they are thankfully this season. But 5,505 was the average attendance. Not helped, of course, by the best 5 attended sides being away from home this week. Warrington, Wigan, St Helens, Leeds and Hull FC, the only sides that get 10,000 figures, not just regularly but at all, we're all away from home, so that doesn't help on that front. Let's hope for much better next time around. But we start with the Thursday night game, where it was Wakefield Trinity hosting the Warrington Wolves. It was all but over at half-time, 26-6 to the Wolves, but that is very much only half the story of this game. It finished up a nail-bite in 34-32 to the visitors. Wakefield just coming short, the boot of Danny Brough not quite getting him there. 4,753 were there. Ben Thaler was the referee on this one. And let's go through the stats first of all. Wakefield ended the game with a lot more carries. They had over 50 more carries on the stats than did the Wolves, but only made 107 more metres and 1 more break. They did score an extra try, true. Crucially, they made 4 more handling errors than Wire. They did score that extra try, but Warrington's Ratchford was perfect with the boot, which made a huge difference in this game. Wire were better at making ground, 1.8 metres per carry better, and at making tackles, 2.2% better team tackle success rate from them. Individually, Josh Charnley grabbed 2 tries, 104 metres. Blake Austin was a try scorer and had a hand in an assist, 2 clean breaks, 119 metres. Chris Hill scored a try where he seemed to carry about a third of the Wakefield side on his back, 122 metres for him as well. And Mike Cooper, the man who we think was unlucky to miss out on England's suggestion, 5 successful offloads and 119 metres. For the losing Trinity, David Fafita, 1 try, 6 tackles, 103 metres. Anthony England, 135 metres. Reece Lynn, 4 offloads, 132 metres. And Ryan Hampshire, 1 try, 116 metres from Rocky Hampshire there. So do you want to take us through the first of the fan views?
Yep, so Paul O'Brien says, Warrington the stronger in the first half, but what a comeback from Wakefield. Sadly, it wasn't to be for Wakey.
Joe Smith, who is really jumping on board this week, so it's great to have you along for the ride, Joe, said, incredible game, shocking start from Wakey, especially with the effort or lack of to stop the first try. Warrington looked to have the game sewn up at half-time, but what an ending to that game. Wakey's looked to be in with that Kyle Wood try, and when it came down to a Danny Brough to convert to draw, I can't have been the only one thinking that this was a gimme. Entertaining game, just how rugby league should be.
Yeah, so Tom Andrews says, enjoyable game which deserved golden point. Austin, Ben, Tikka Masala, Fafita and Wood were standouts. You would have put your house on Brough kicking that at the end. P.S. I found myself saying, bitch, please, whenever Sky claim Wakey have an injury crisis.
We're going to get to injury crises later on, Tom, of course, with your Hull Kingston Rovers. Tom Eckley said, so, turns out you can pump as much money into a bottle job as you like, you stay a bottle job. Honestly, think Curry is one of the most naturally gifted players currently, and potentially dangerous precedent set with that obstruction call. That's the first mention of that obstruction call. The obstruction call was on a Jake Mamo try, which Mamo, the referees didn't seem to get the memo that let tries be scored, guys, because this one was one of the most absurd ones I've ever seen. The man running the line that the ball was passed behind had run through the defensive line, then Danny Brough almost dived back to tackle him. And I can only think that the referees saw a collision and weren't really sure what happened, but because a player was seemingly sent to ground in the move, they thought, send it up, no try. But unfortunately, in the situation with the way the rules are now, you have to be certain that it wasn't obstruction for it to be flipped around. And at that point, the game was already getting out of hand. I don't know if that played a role subconsciously in this very poor decision being made, but it wasn't a good decision by the referees. And whilst Warrington slacked off and Wakefield definitely picked up their performance, a couple of calls that went against these the Warrington Wolves in close try calls probably could have seen it never even coming down to that exciting comeback. So let's credit the referees for creating a situation where we had all that entertainment rather than criticising them too much for what was a bogus call on this occasion.
Yeah, not a good one. So Mike Dodd says, phew, to lose 20 points in the last 16 minutes is concerning, but a win's a win. Besides, we should have had another try if it weren't for the video ref. There you go, second mention. Mike Cooper's offload game was incredible, and Jason Clark had a quietly good game too. The only thing more surprising than the last 15 minutes was that Danny Brough didn't complain to Thaler about the misconversion and in himself a trip to the bin.
At M9UHL, Josh said, that's the reason I watched the game. The last 15 minutes was an exciting display. I really like Wakey this year because Leeds are shit, but I just have a dilemma as I can't decide if I like Wakey or hate Danny Brough more. I don't think Warrington have anything to worry about. I think they just took their foot off the gas and got caught napping.
Certainly did. St David with a confession, quite appropriate. Okay, I admit it. I got bored and switched off before Wakey's comeback. Oh, never do that. Even if you just leave it on in the background.
I must admit, it did become a bit of a background watch for 10 minutes there until, I mean, and even the Kyle Woods second try, as exciting as that was, I was kind of like, oh, that's cute. But so I was hovering with just the TV on but going and doing other stuff when the excellent offload was released for Max Jowett's try. And then I thought, hold on a minute, this 5 minutes is going to be worth watching, and sat firmly back down and turned off all other distractions for the last 5 minutes. Mark Wilson at Willowtree88 will finish with a Wakefield fan who says, a fucking awful start by Wakey and a brave comeback made for a great game. Wire are good though, we showed a game we can compete against anyone. We need to learn you don't win points for character. A big few weeks ahead. Well, if you won points for scoring more tries than your opposition, you would have had some points as well from this game, Mark. And you've got to say that Wakefield turned it into an entertaining game, even if they were realistically lucky to be in touch from certainly the obstruction call. The second no try to me was very close, and I couldn't be sure either way on the second Mamo no try. But some exciting stuff in this game in terms of like the players who perform the best. I don't want to be copying everyone else and all the points that were awarded out for Man of Steel and Albert Goldthorpe and all of that, but Blake Austin again is fantastic in he's kind of showing a more complete game than I think we've seen from him for much of his career down under, where he's kind of been a running player who isn't always in the game. It's always been the problem with him before, especially when he was at the West Tigers, and then he had a great spell when he was at the Canberra Raiders, where he did become that all action all the time player for a spell, but it only lasted about 5 or 6 games and then went away. At Warrington he's already matched that in terms of how many games he's played and how consistent he's been performing, and he's a support player, but he's also been creative when you talk about tries assists. So he was definitely one of the star players in this. I agree with the people calling out Kyle Wood, and you've got to say his the football play for his second try was pretty good. I mean, his first try was easy, and that was very symptomatic of Warrington switching off at that phase. I thought when they were 34 odd up, 34-12 it was, weren't it, at that stage? Very symptomatic of them switching off. But the second try, it was really exciting play, a broken play from Wakefield as well. This is why people like Josh are enjoying watching Wakefield play, because they'll play to a structure like their last try, which was just great pace hitting hard, and we talked about Salford doing this last week. Me and Sarah talked about Salford doing this for their tries. Well, Wakey did it for their tries as well this week. They can put those precise constant passes at speed and score a try like Joe Arundel's, or they can do crazy silly off the cuff stuff that on a broken play and end up scoring like Kyle Wood did. So you gotta be entertained by that. But
yeah, I mean, I wanted to pick up just before you move on there about structure. One thing I did note is that I thought in the second half, actually, that Wakey's structure was falling apart. Actually, there were far too many balls on the ground, and for me, they actually got back into it through individual efforts.
Yeah.
So for Fafita's try and Kyle Wood's try, and then there's a bit of confidence and then a bit of a momentum, and then with a bit of confidence, suddenly the ball doesn't end up on the floor anymore, and that kind of leads to your last try. So I think they'd almost exhausted the structure. Maybe it was because of changes in terms of you're missing a couple of players in your back.
The whole left edge was gone, weren't it?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that was part of it in terms of positioning. But yeah, there was far too many balls on the floor earlier on. But yeah, they're kind of. For me, it was individual efforts from Fafita when he came back on, and Wood, who was as far as I could see, was excellent. That kind of brought them back into it and kind of, as I say, built confidence back.
Yeah, definitely. But I think I don't know, I'm swayed too much by just his moments of class, but my star player was maybe even Ben Curry. I'm getting a bit carried away with narratives this year, as we'll find out when I talk about my player of the week. And I don't know, maybe I'm charmed by narratives because I want to tell stories that don't involve the bollocks going on at my own club. But Ben Curry has been out for a year and he's come back and he played 380 minutes now, and he hasn't looked tired, he hasn't looked loose at all, and he's just been brilliant. And that leaves me, I mean, there was a few good scores. We've talked about the last few Wakey tries that were all exciting, but the best try of the game, the highlight moment of this game for me, was Blake Austin's try, and it was from just how good the forward interplay Clark, who's been played very, very well this season. Jason Clark as well as Daryl Clark, but Jason Clark in this game. But Curry's hands, Ben Curry is world class, and that try showed just how much he is world class for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, we talked earlier a little bit about Watkins kind of struggled back from injury, but yeah, I mean, you certainly can't say that about Curry. So yeah, you've got to just let's make sure we don't overplay him. Yeah, let's maybe give him a bit of time on the sidelines because